Welcome back. You're watching Eye on India, and today we're discussing what India Inc. needs to do to be ready for the rollout of the General Data Protection Regulation that the EU will switch over to on the 25th of May. Rishi, just before the break, we were talking about the to-do list, what India Inc. needs to keep in mind to get ready for the switchover. What are you most concerned about today? What are the key risks that you foresee?
So the key risk that we foresee is that large organizations do not have an inventory of data. So what I'm saying is today it's very difficult if you ask any CIO a question, where is the data of European citizen lying in your network? It is very, very difficult a question to ask a CIO or a CISO, right? So I think data inventory is very, very important because once you know where your data is, only then you can apply controls like minimization, retention, right? And that is your baseline to cater to request of data subjects. And I think one thing we should have covered in the beginning was what's the major change in GDPR? The GDPR, the major change is that it is giving empowerment to data subjects rather than focusing on
the customer is at the center of the conversation.
Correct. Rather than focusing on geos and locations. Irrespective if the data subject has the power to request for his data, to get this data deleted, get his data corrected, right? So unless we know where the data is and what are we doing with that data, it will be very, very difficult for any organization. And that's a foundation, actually. So that's a biggest to-do, I would say, for GDPR.
Okay. Jaspreet, the key risks that you foresee as we move towards the 25th of May, given the fact that the level of preparedness seems pretty disappointing today, at least if one goes by your survey.
Right. I think the biggest challenge that we see is basic understanding of what GDPR is, what are the 99 articles that it talks about, concepts like data minimization. There are no, and the other concern that I see is a lot of emphasis is only being put on the 4% or 20 million euros.
The penalty.
The penalty, right? It's not an absolute number. What the Act says that is, this is the maximum penalty that can be levied. The organizations have to put in reasonable security controls or to provide reasonable assurance that they have followed all the 99 articles of GDPR. And the other biggest roadblock that we see is awareness within organizations. You might put in best controls at a technology level, have excellent access control systems to your applications, but what if your sales guy downloads the copy of some sales master, keeps it on his laptop? That is again PII, data personal identifiable information lying on the laptop. How do we educate the end user? We walk into offices and the first thing we do is we write the entire information, all our PII on the information, visitor information register. First question that we ask in terms of interviews is, tell us something about yourself. Right? And last point, from a CIO, CISO perspective, to understand how does data enter my organization to how does either it is retained or how is it deleted. We call it ingress to egress, entry to exit. I think that one single viewpoint is very, very important from an organization's perspective.
Okay, Puneet, I'll close with you then. 30 seconds, the big roadblocks that you see and what is the biggest risk you foresee as we move towards 25th May?
The biggest risk obviously being that a lot of companies may not be ready for this in India, which is pretty apparent. And as what Jaspreet said, that from the muster outside your offices to the data that you're storing inside, everything practically is imposing a risk upon an organization if you're not GDPR compliant. So I say the biggest issue that a lot of companies will face is a sudden wake-up call that 25th May, it is genuinely going to come into force and suddenly you are not compliant. So they need to do a gap analysis, the data mapping, and proceed further ahead. You still have time if you've not done the same as of now.
Okay, you have about 50 days to go if you haven't made that start already. Puneet, Rishi, and Jaspreet, appreciate you joining us here on CNBC TV 18 to explain to us what the new GDPR regime means and the implications for India Inc. If you haven't got the details, this is the show that can give you some idea on where to get started. For now, from all of us here, goodbye. Many thanks for watching.